felt good about it. I learned a lot of new things about Reno that I probably never would have learned if I wouldn't have done this project.
My main concern is why don't families nowadays want to spend more time with their immediate family and their extended family and like continue to bond together and make their whole like family legacy a big part of their life. And I think that that's a very touchy-feely subject, especially if people are not sticking together with their family in the first place. So my main concern is just like why? Like why don't you? And like if you were to change it, what would you change?
Hi, my name is Melissa Portis, and I am speaking with Mr. Kenneth Dalton, president of Our Story Incorporated. Now, Mr. Dalton, what inspired you to, or motivate you to begin the Our Story project?
Our Story project, I kind of started because when I moved here to Nevada, I started learning some things about some Black history. Being one of the first Black firefighters for the Reno Fire Department, that right there kind of set things in motion. Plus, my mother-in-law at the time, she was into her husband was Kurt Roberts, and he's a baseball player, and she talked about the Negro Leagues. I started researching the Negro Leagues and different things like that, and then that opened up some doors to what has happened here in Northern Nevada with Jack Johnson fight, on 4th Street, Jim Beckworth, who a lot of people didn't know was an African American, and that just kind of inspired me to start collecting and find out more history about African Americans in Northern Nevada.
When did this facility open, and who shared it?
Basically, the facility opened, and this facility here that we're doing our interview in, it opened in probably, I'd say 6 months ago, in September of '07. We kind of call it the incubator when we started it. What we tried to do is, and what we've been trying to do is have an area that African Americans would be located, when people wanted to find out information on like what we're doing with Our Story, with history. The NAACP is one of the organizations housed in here. Reno Black Firefighters are housed in here. And then there's a couple individual groups that are also housed. And so what we try to do is create a one-stop shop. If you want to come and find information about what's happening in the African American community, you can come here, and we should be able to facilitate that with the different organizations that are here.
Describe the interests or lack of in Black history in Northern Nevada.
I think it's one of those things that we just don't know.
Nobody's ever done that before. And a lot of what you're doing is nobody's ever done that before. That's right. And so you have to, so you've got to go to, you have to go start out with some very, very broad, questions, and then you got to find somebody that'll give you an answer, and then you go find out if they're remembering things that are correct. Cases in the state of Nevada was called Stoutmeyer versus Duffy. And David Stoutmeyer was a 7-year-old African-American boy who lived in Carson City who wanted to go.
The piece that I'll be showing is more about racism, and it's a clip of Michael Corey, professor from UNR, and he talks about how one day he woke up and he's like, I don't want to be Black today. So he went to work and he pretended like he wasn't Black. He just acted normal like a white person, and he just felt very excluded, like very invisible, and it made me realize like that's horrible that people treat African Americans differently just because of their color.
In the biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada, the population is not Black. Actually, black people only make up 3% of our city. As we look around the town, it's hard to find a person of color, and that's why our story begins. Reno is known for its gambling, the casinos, the slots, the tourism. It has been one of the fastest growing cities for the past 8 years. We have grown by leaps and bounds. Instead of neon signs and mega casinos, it's now suburbs and traffic that dot the landscape. One of those suburbs on the outskirts of town is Spanish Springs. It's here at Spanish Springs High School that we 5 students have met. My name is Justine McAlizzi. I'm a senior and the producer of the Ben Palmer portion of the story. One of my new best friends, a fellow senior, is Chuck Ron. He produced the Black Springs segment of this story. Carlos Herrerez, the junior on the team, produced a story about the fight of the century. And our sophomores, Jacob Griffith and Zach Burke, we lovingly referred to them as our interns, but they also made segments to our story. Jacob produced the piece of Paul R. Williams, and Zach made the piece about Marion Motley. And lastly, Mr. Bowers, who gave up nights and weekends with his family to help us make this dream a reality. This was the team who would eventually become a family. We spent countless hours researching at the library and Nevada Historical Society. We put on our little white gloves and poured through boxes of old photographs. We took trips to California, tops of mountain passes, and all over the Reno and Sparks area. We braved the cold and the snow to get interviews, but in the end, it was all worth it. Our lives have been forever changed by this experience. And now you know who made this story. Why would 6 people, which not one of them are black, make a story about the African American experience of our city? I guess the simple answer would be because we didn't know. We didn't know that black people were segregated in Reno, and the only place they could buy homes was in an area called Black Springs. We didn't know that one of the first black men in history to be inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame played football at our college. We didn't know that our town was rich in heritage from men like Paul L. Williams, a famous architect, and Ben Palmer, an early African American rancher. And we didn't know that one of the first people to ever explore Nevada was a black mountain man named Jim Beckworth. We simply didn't know. Through discovering this history, we would also learn the darker side of what it meant to be black in northern Nevada. The racism, the discrimination, the hatred practiced against people simply because their skin was a different color. We simply didn't know. We don't study this stuff in class. We don't hear about it in the media. And it's not something that comes up in everyday conversation. It's our dream that our story can begin this conversation.